Good morning. This morning is a very exciting topic. We're going to talk about whether clitoral orgasms are shallow and immature, and if vaginal orgasms indeed are the mature orgasm to have, and actually why this controversy is still in place in this day and age. And I'm going to come to the subject from a very passionate place. As you can tell, I'm going to come to the subject in a stand for your sexual sovereignty, for your erotic intelligence. Now, here's what's alarming to me, because it's been, I live my life. I have my tribe. I have been literally interviewing, I think 1 to 3 interviews per day because of the Me Too movement, because of Harvey Weinstein and all that has emerged around that. I have been taking a stand and speaking up about sexual sovereignty without really regarding what's going on in my own field, what people are doing. And I'm assuming that we're all on the same page, but it's come to my attention that it's not true. Some of you have reached out to me with an email, with a Facebook inquiry, with a message saying that you are being shamed for your type of orgasm, that you are being made wrong, that you're treated like you're an idiot, that and then definitions are given to you, that you shouldn't have clitoral orgasms, that they're bad for you, they're shallow, that you should focus on vaginal orgasms. Now, there's other schools of thought that are the opposite. And it looks like there are new books that have come out, and there are people who are leading people who are saying these things. So here's what I want to say, because I'm not interested in labeling and shaming and blaming. So what I'm going to do is going to tell you what I stand for and what I believe to be true. And the reason I feel that I can do that, and if you don't know who I am Dr. Saida Desilets, and I have a PhD, and I look at the nature, the psychosexual nature of women, and how social mandates and domestication collectively affects a woman's psychosexuality and her own feeling of confidence and well-being in her own body and sexuality. And I have a program for professionals. I train gynecologists, naturopaths, any woman who is a professional working with women, I train them in this method that I developed that has been tried and true, that's been tested. So I feel like I have a little bit of a say in this subject. And first of all, let's establish what sexual sovereignty is for those of you who are new to this idea, and welcome everyone who's actually here live with me. Sexual sovereignty is very simple. Sovereignty implies that you have the full authority, full autonomy of your own body, your own sensuality, your own sexuality, that with issues around your body, your fertility, your pleasure, sexual orientation, how you have sex, when you have sex, it's no one's business but yours. It is solely for you to choose. That is the premise of sovereignty and sexual sovereignty. I'm very specific about this because in our global collective, we refuse somehow to be inclusive of sexuality as a normal human experience, as a normal topic, as normal as breathing and our heart beating. And sexual sovereignty came into being because I was witnessing. I was in over 16 countries around the world and doing over 20 weekends a year of teaching and witnessing in all these different cultures, all different walks of life, all different women. A common thread, that when you create an environment where the woman can realize that she is powerful, she's erotically intelligent, that she's not broken, that her yoni never lies, when you establish a place where she can move as fast as the slowest part of herself, then something beautiful happens. She defines for herself what it means to be a sexual being. She defines for herself what it means to have pleasure. And then I started to say, well, that is sexual sovereignty. That's what we're learning here. That's what we're claiming here. This is so exciting. And right now, in this climate that we're living in, it is so crucial for each of us to contemplate the idea, perhaps I could be, if I choose to be, because I'm born this way, sexually sovereign. And what would that mean? And what does that look like? Now, this is very important in the topic of clitoral orgasm versus vaginal orgasm. Now, I have to admit something to you because I got really angry reading these emails of women being shamed for their pleasure, their version of pleasure. What the bleep is that about? Okay. Erotic intelligence. We are all erotically intelligent. I'm shocked that professionals who are leading women don't get their information in a more thorough way, I would need to say, because it seems like they're all reading the same books and going to the same courses and not looking at the thread that is common in all those things, just accepting it as truth. Maybe it's my rebellious nature, but long ago, as I got exposed to all different kinds of information, Taoist sexuality, tantric sexuality, new age conscious type sexuality, underground more S&M and BDSM and all these different types of sexualities, plus the regular sexuality that's taught to professionals in universities, and then the sexuality that's just natural to tribal people. Having a look at this thread, what I saw, and this emerged when I wrote my PhD, my dissertation, what I saw is that almost everything available to all of us is focused on something called the functional model of sexuality. It literally is the how-to of sex, which is fantastic. We love how-to. And we are bigger than the sum of our parts. We are not just the clitoris. We are not just the vagina. We are not just the hormonal system. We are not just the neural pathways. Those things are important. Understanding them is important. Playing with our bodies in new ways to discover ourselves is important. So I'm not negating the functional model, but where they all went wrong, and I'm going to include Freud and other people in here, where it all goes wrong is that we forgot one thing. We forgot the deeper meaning of sexuality, that there is a meaning to sexuality, that it's not just about popping babies out, that it's not just about a quick orgasm. There's something profound that happens when we are able to cultivate and experience and continue and maintain what's called relaxed arousal states. I'll get to that more in a minute, but it's the deeper meaning of your sexuality must not, I include myself in this, must not be defined by anyone else but you. So please help me here. If you're watching this, I am calling out your rebel. I am calling out your daring. I am calling you to stand in your sovereignty and call BS to anyone. I don't care if they're a leading speaker, a leading author, a leading teacher. If they start to define your sexuality for you, it's BS. Call it BS and walk away. Walk away. Because they're not there for you. If they're telling you how it is, they're not there for you. You can know if someone's there for you when they offer you the space to explore what's true for you. Never let anyone define who you are or your experiences. You must do this for yourself. I teach a course called the Jade Egg Mastery. We focus on the jade egg, but a majority of the course is the psychosexual piece. And right at the beginning, I share how definitions create reality. And that I want you to sit back and think for yourself, what does pleasure mean? What does orgasm mean? What does all of this mean to you? And if you don't like the way you're defining it, guess what? You can change it. You have that power. Now, I also talk in this course about something called our erotic fingerprint. I also mention it in my book, The Emergence of the Sensual Woman. And your erotic fingerprint is unique to you. And what I have found, which is also included in this course, is that there are multiple ways. In fact, there is a paper that's been written on a theory that there are actually 63 ways to orgasm in a woman's body. Not one and not two. And not one of those ways is better than the other way. Now, holy mama, right? Why are we here? Why are we learning about sexuality? Why do you go to courses to learn about yourself? It's to feel empowered. It's to feel confident. It's to be more vital. It's to take care if you have an imbalance. You want to rectify the imbalance, and you want to thrive sexually. You want to feel great. You want to have satisfaction. How can you get that if you are being told that your version of pleasure, that which you experience, is wrong or bad or shallow or immature? Shaming has no place in empowering people sexually. If you sniff shame, get out. You want to be in a shameless climate. You want to be, if you are being guided, by someone who puts your own inner guidance, your own inner voice as the authority. That's the orientation that you need. So let's answer the question. Are clitoral orgasms shallow? And are vaginal orgasms superior and more mature? Now, I think the argument needs to go deeper than that. But let's look anatomically first at this part of the body. When I was 5 years old, I got to share this story because it's very important around erotic intelligence and erotic innocence. When I was 5 years old, it became very clear that a certain spot on my body, the clitoris, was epic. I didn't know the name for it. I did not care. All I knew is every time I played with that part of myself, I felt so alive. I felt so alive and so good that I wanted to share it with everybody. And I did. I shared it with all my other 5-year-old girlfriends. And I did get in trouble for that. And I did get called the devil's spawn. And I did get beaten. But in my young mind, I remember thinking, if they're that angry, they must not know about this spot. Erotic innocence is crucial, and I want to apologize to every one of you who's had your erotic innocence jaded or tainted in such a way that you don't trust your own innate eroticism, that you don't trust your own body. It makes me sad. Makes me sad that we live in a world where people think, authority figures think they have the right to shame us, to tell us how it is. That's not the kind of leadership I want to live with, and certainly not the kind of sexual education that I want to have. Out. I don't care who you are. If you are shaming people, you do not have the right to teach them. Stop what you're doing, do other things, go on. But the space that we go into when we want to explore something edgy for ourselves is vulnerable. When we share ourselves, when we ask questions about sexuality and we're scared, This is intense. Shaming someone in that moment it's worse than shaming them at almost any other time, because your psyche is open, it's vulnerable. And you're putting your trust in this authority figure to support you and guide you, and they're shaming you. Or maybe they're playful about it, but they still have a way of saying, this is wrong and this is right. How do they know? I'm sorry. Maybe it's right for them and wrong for them, but how do they know that it's true for you? They don't. They don't. So here's the thing. Anatomically, the clitoris, it's a very important part of a woman's body. It's a superhighway, over 8,000 nerve endings. It's a very unique nerve pathway in the human body. It's an excitation only. How exciting is that? It's just purely meant for excitation and pleasure. That's it. Its sole purpose. And you're telling me that it's shallow and immature to touch that part of my body, that its sole designation, that somehow creation, the universe got it wrong, and that part of my body I should avoid and not focus on and not touch. Are you crazy? Not you, but these people who are saying, the thing that really gets me, and you can see that this is emotional for me, so I apologize, but what really gets me is that you believe it. If someone tells you that, why? You should be outraged. You should be outraged. Your body is so intelligent and so incredibly designed, beautifully designed, perfectly designed. Why would a perfectly designed, intelligent body have a body part that is solely created for pleasure, have it be shallow and unimportant and immature? Are you kidding me? No. Now, there is such thing as clitoral addiction, where there's no other option, that a woman hasn't explored the huge variety of stimulation and pleasure, and that there is issues with overstimulating the clitoris and having issues with dopamine levels in your brain, where it gets harder and harder to orgasm, and there can be a downer or a depression afterwards. That is and can be a common experience if if a woman doesn't understand how to expand her pleasure into the rest of her body, if she doesn't understand that she actually has this full spectrum available to her and she's solely focused there. And that is not a wrong thing. It's just purely a lack of knowing. Why would we shame a woman who this is the one way she does know pleasure, and tell her that that's wrong and shallow and immature? Horrible. I'm sorry. If you've ever been told that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that someone would have said that to you. I love my clitoris. Clitoris is my best friend. And I also love all the other juicy, amazing parts of my sexual anatomy, because there is a second clitoris inside of you. There really is. So anyways, it's not a sexual anatomy class right now. But just to know, I don't think that nature is unintelligent. So trust your body, trust your own intelligence. Secondly, our vaginal orgasms, the more mature orgasm to have. First of all, why would I take the word of someone who was obviously had no connection with erotic intelligence, no connection with sexual sovereignty? I'm talking about Freud. Why would I let his opinion determine the truth of my body? And I have to say, I love my vagina and I love my deep orgasms. Vaginal orgasms, there's many different neural pathways that activate vaginal orgasms. One of them is the pelvic nerve. Now, very important thing to understand about the pelvic nerve It has remarkable abilities. Unlike the pudendal nerve, which is linked to the clitoris, is that the pelvic nerve is like, it has both excitation and relaxation capacities. So it is a very important nerve. It is a very important pathway, because we live in a world that's so stressful and so tense and so crazy that we as women must explore and learn how to self-induce states of relaxed arousal. Okay? That's why if the jade egg practice is done properly, and I have to say, for the most part, what's being taught out there is not going to serve you. And I say that only because of over 20 years experience, people coming to me after they've explored other teachings, sharing what they've learned there, sharing what they've learned with me. And I'm not saying I'm the end all and be all, but I am saying that I do really know what's going on here. And I want to say that unless the elements of tone, sure, we're all teaching tone, suppleness, and dexterity are being taught, along with your psychosexuality, not separate, must be developed at the same time. What's available to you won't be available to, or it will be haphazard. My desire when I share information is, I look at you like you're erotically intelligent. So I'm going to speak to you like you're intelligent, okay? I'm going to speak to you like you're sexually sovereign. You decide. I simply invite you, but you decide. So when it comes to learning relaxed arousal, almost the entirety of my method is based on relaxed arousal because it's that important. Now, I don't leave out the clitoris as an intentional leaving it out, but I feel like it's much more accessible to women. Women understand it a lot more, and going inside the vagina, activating the deeper neural pathways, that is not as understood. That is not as common. And so that's why I do focus there. But it's not because there's a hierarchy. It's not because one is more mature than the other, more profound than the other. I can tell you this. This I know with every cell in my being. We are all born omni-orgasmic. I write about this in my book, Emergence of the Sensual Woman. We are all born omni-orgasmic. And, big breath. If that's true, then every part of your body can be a place that instigates the sensation of pleasure. Not only that everything in your environment can stimulate the sensation of pleasure. This means, ladies, we're not reliant on our sexual anatomy. This means, and this is true for men too, I actually believe that men and women are born omni-orgasmic. I believe that we're socialized out of understanding and knowing that for ourselves. And I believe that because there is very little information on it and very few models of this sexuality, that it's just not in the collective mind. But when it becomes more part of the collective mind, I think more and more of us are going to understand this incredible power. So let's describe our sexuality as aliveness. And let's describe sexual cultivation as the cultivation of our aliveness. And let's describe the orgasmic state as a state of heightened aliveness. That's how you recognize it. It's like, for a moment, you feel so alive. And let's for a moment imagine that our sensuality, the way that we make sense of reality through the senses, sensuality, making sense of reality. Imagine that we are so connected to ourselves, to life, that we let life touch us through those senses so deeply that we feel a rush of aliveness, or in other words, an orgasmic experience, purely from a sunset, a smell, a touch, doesn't matter. I remember once standing, observing one of the most epic sunsets. And I'm looking at this sunset, and I'm letting it touch me, and I'm breathing, and all of a sudden I feel like a tremor inside of my body, and I just let it happen. And I breathe more, and I look more, and it's like suddenly I feel like I'm making love with the sunset. It's an awkward and bizarre feeling, but I let it happen because I've devoted myself to allow myself to remember my pleasurable orientation to life. So here I am, and I literally have not only a full body orgasm without touching. There was also female ejaculation that happened. I released. Thankfully, I was wearing a skirt and I was in nature. But it was a remarkable experience, and I was left feeling deeply vulnerable and touched and filled from this experience. And here's what I want to say. There are times that I've had experiences sexually with myself, by myself, or with another that I couldn't find a book on. There were no authority figures that could tell me what I just experienced. And so I learned to self-validate. So self-validation is a sign of a progression along erotic evolution. And each of us progress along this maturation process, let's call it. And so Kevin says, both are awesome, darling. Yes, of course. And beyond both is that there's so much more available to us. There's orgasms available in all kinds of ways. There's a remarkable story of a man who was a neuroscientist who became paraplegic, and he retrained his thumbs to be the equivalent of his penis. And he would have different orgasms depending on which thumb his wife would stimulate. And he learned that his body was so amazing, his brain had so much plasticity that he could literally retrain any part of his body to be that erotic spark, let's say. That's the point of this argument. That's the point of this Facebook Live, is we are sexually sovereign. We are erotically intelligent. Clitoral, vaginal, all the other pathways, even just purely, being ecosexual and loving nature, whatever it is, we are sexual beings. The point of this whole argument is to bring us back out of this versus that in hierarchy. And then that there's a scale to judge a woman on how evolved she is depending on what kind of orgasm she has. That's what I say to that. You can have your scales. I know what I'm experiencing. Self-validating is so crucial. Take a stand for your body. And take a stand enough for your body that if anyone makes a comment or whatever that lands to you as something that feels disempowering or disrespectful, bye-bye. It doesn't have to be in your life. You don't have to take it on as your own truth. Here's the truth. I've learned from a lot of different lineages and people, and I've not emulated any one of them. I've made sure that the information was translated through my own erotic intelligence, and I created my own language around it that was true for me and my person. And that's how I live my life. And that's how I love to inspire others to live their life. It's how I actually train my ambassadors to teach the women in their lives about their sexuality. It's so important. We cannot override the psychosexual part of a woman. It's all connected. I'm so excited about this knowledge because right now I've had the honor to influence, I think, one of the top gynecologists in the United States, who has taken this orientation, this information to female medicine stages, and who's literally now changing how gynecologists are viewing women's bodies. That's how change starts. And the method that I created came from self-orientation. Self-orientation. So you don't have to go out and teach or write books on this. You're living your life. If anything that you get out of being here today is to claim your sexual sovereignty, be daring enough to trust and know that you are erotically intelligent, that you can self-validate, and you can stand your ground and go, I don't agree. If that's how you see it, if you think I'm immature and shallow, or whatever the projections are, the assumptions are, then so be it. Because that's what you think, that's what you believe. You have the right to think and believe that, but I'm not taking that on as my definition for my own sexuality. And you may never say that, but you can think it and know it to be true in your body. So, if you are not already part of my community and you love this conversation, I would love to invite you into the community. It's free to try it for 30 days. It's an amazing community. It's called the Daring Project. In there, we value you. Like, you actually deeply matter to me and to the community. Your story really matters. We want to know, who are you? And your voice matters. And these types of questions, it's so important to me. You have no idea how touched I am when a woman can trust me enough after having bad experiences out there and still being dedicated enough to her path and her pleasure to still seek out information, but still ask of me, what do you think? Because I'm not willing to learn from someone who's da-da-da-da-da. Love it. Love it. So thedaringproject.com is where we're going to deepen this conversation, is where we make it very real. And I also want to know, in the comments below, your thoughts. More your thoughts on how does it feel if you've ever been shamed or made wrong for how you have pleasure and how you love to self-pleasure and how you love to express yourself orgasmically. I want to know, how did what I say today land for you? What is your takeaway? What are you taking away from this conversation? And let's get away from labeling and shaming and blaming, because that ends the conversations. And let's lean in. Let's be daring together. Lean into this space. So if there is something that you don't agree with, or if there is something that I didn't say, mention it below. I welcome this. I welcome this. I am so touched and delighted and thrilled that you've spent over half an hour with me today, diving into this. Thank you. I just want to say hi to a few of you who've been writing and read a few comments. So Sasha, how I love that you're speaking about this, and I love the place of passion and emotion you're doing it from. Thank you. I cannot not do it from this place. My whole life, since I was 5 years old, I've been sharing about pleasure. My whole life, like, sexuality and delight and orgasm, it's such a big part of my life. I cultivate my sexuality every day. I appreciate, I revere it. And I'm honored that there's anyone that wants to hear the mad ravings of a sexually sovereign woman. Okay, so Sasha says self-validation. I love this. Brenda says that's amazing. Bente von Monrath, what a cool name. Love it. Monica, this is so incredibly glorious. Oh, how I treasure you and love your sermons. Oh, I guess it's like a sermon. Yes, I've never thought of them that way, but very, very cool. F and yes, Yahoo, Impact Changemaker. Diane, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, gentlemen, the Daring Project is only for women. However, this platform is for men and women. I welcome everyone's voice. So share with me below, what is your takeaway? What is it, the one action that you're willing to take to establish that you are indeed sexually sovereign, that you are indeed erotically intelligent? And if there has been a trauma or a wounding or a misdirection, are you able and willing to see it for what it is and then come back to right relationship and make new choices? New choices in alignment for your own pleasure, for your own vitality, for your own aliveness. So leave me those comments below and please share this video as much as possible. I really think that this conversation needs to be had, especially because I was so unaware as to how many professionals, people who say they're professionals anyways, who are disseminating empowerment of women's sexuality through the disempowerment of women. I mean, it's kind of weird. So share this video, share your opinion, your voice matters, and please let's interact respectfully with one another. That's very important to me. If you disrespect anyone in my community, I tend not to take that very well. This is a climate of sovereignty where we have profound respect for ourselves and for one another. We may see things differently. That doesn't mean that we're right or wrong. It just means we see things differently. We define things differently. So share, it's so, so important. Jacques, thank you for helping unlock women to their unlimited potential. Yes, they're doing it, Jacques. All I get to do, seriously, all I get to do is hold the invitation. That's the greatest privilege of what I do in my life's work, is to hold the invitation. To hold the invitation that we all remember that we're sexually sovereign, erotically intelligent, that we're not broken, that our yoni never lies, and that if we have been hurt, or we are going through a tough time, or we have an imbalance, that we can move as fast as the slowest part of us. So crucial. Ladies, if you are not yet part of the Daring Project and you'd love to try it out, I am right now offering that 30 days as you can explore for 30 days. It's pretty damn amazing what's happening in there. Again, please share and share your opinion, because let's bust this meme. This is BS. Let's bust it. Let's actually change the collective mind around this. Let's start treating our sexuality not as a commodity. Let's treat it with the fact and revere it as a beautiful sexual functioning of our lives. And let's encourage anyone who's in a place of authority. Let's question things and say, how do you know that? How do you know that? Where does that opinion come from? Authority figures are not gods. They're human beings who have decided that what they need to say is important. But it doesn't mean that what they need to say is honest or truthful or serving of others. It could be very self-serving. So that's the times we live in. That's why the Me Too movement happened. It's why there's whistleblowers right now. I think actually there's whistleblowers on every front. We're going to see more and more people stand up and use their voice and come forward and express what they believe is truth and what they believe is a lie. We're going to see whistleblowing on all levels of society, including in the sexual education realm, and so be it. I am all in. Thank you again for being here. I'm seeing Jay Michael saying, Saida, thank you for your guidance. Absolutely welcome. Deep, deep pleasure. Deepest pleasure, actually. And here's what I know. Every one of us has unlimited pleasure potential. That is just how we are hardwired. But we live in a world that has convinced us otherwise. We live in a world that literally socializes little girls out of being connected with their pelvis. And through the inquiry, the curiosity, and the willingness to explore, especially states of relaxed arousal, those neural pathways get rebuilt. And that, to me, is a worthy cause and a worthy investigation and a worthy, just a worthy state to play with. So thank you again, everybody. Leave me your comments and share with as many people as you can. This particular subject is uber dear to my heart. Let's get it out. Tell me your takeaway. Love you. Have an epic, epic day. And we'll be in touch really soon. Lots of love, everyone. Bye. Love you.